Hi, welcome back to Space Thoughts. I want to talk today about a news story that's been kind of popular for the past few days, and that is the Russian Federation and the People's Republic of China made an announcement that they are going to create a moon base or a lunar outpost by 2030, and apparently this is sign what we call a Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU, to do this. Obviously, something like this grabs a lot of headlines, and there's a lot of analysis about it, and a lot of knee-jerk reactions, unfortunately, in some respects. So now that a couple days transpired, and I've really had some time to think about it, I wanted to give you a few ideas in this video. And this is going to be just a quick video to, just go over a few of my ideas, and not necessarily a really detailed analysis. So fundamentally, what's going on here, I think, is this is a pushback on the Artemis Accords. Now, last year, towards the latter half of last year, the Artemis Accords were presented by the Trump administration, and as of that time, there were 8 signatories, including Ukraine. The country Ukraine was also a signatory, and I believe right now Brazil is also in negotiations to actually become part of the Artemis Accords. Now, the Artemis Accords are interesting because, this actually is going to design some sort of, is basically a foundation for principles for not only lunar activity, but activity on other celestial bodies for like comets and asteroids as well, in particular with space resources. And it was really, and I've talked about the Artemis Accords, and I did a couple videos on the Artemis Accords last year. You can go back and look at those. But fundamentally, this really put the spotlight on the U.S. and gave the U.S. what, in my opinion, a leadership position in the whole idea of lunar development, or development in outer space. So I think right now what the whole thing with this Chinese with the Chinese Russian announcement is basically they're trying to upstage the U.S. and get some headlines and create some positive optics. And I think that for a couple of reasons. One, again, because the Artemis Accords, I think, were that serious and that important, and made that much of an impression that it really took away some of the geopolitical fire from the Russian Federation and the PRC, and gave the U.S. that optics of being leaders in this area, not only in developing the moon, but developing the international law as well. But two, I think right now with the new administration, the U.S. is kind of at a crux right now what direction space policy is going to go. Now, I'm not going to talk about where I think space policy is going to go in this video. I have some ideas, none that I really want to talk about right now. But I think right now there's a lot of uncertainty where the direction U.S. space policy is going to take, and this is an opportunity for the PRC and the Russian Federation to jump in and gain some positive optics and create the impression that they are leading an effort. Again, when we talk about the People's Republic of China in particular, there is this idea of what we call the 3 warfares, and I allude to this in a lot of my writings. But fundamentally, what the 3 warfares is the PRC's approach to world. It's how it interacts with the world, and basically the 3 warfares are legal, political, and through the media. So those are the 3 types of those are the 3 types of areas that the PRC focuses on. And looking at this, I kind of see a lot of that in here. For example, the idea of a lunar base on the moon would basically suggest some sort of agreements being made, some sort of initiatives having to be created that would form a basis of eventual international law. And of course, the political as well. There is a lot of talk of international cooperation. The lunar base is purportedly open to all countries, or will be open to all countries to participate. So that, in a sense, is a political aspect to it. Now, the propaganda is obvious. I mean, all the media articles that are out there, and some of the I think knee-jerk reactions I've seen in analysis to what this means. Basically, this means this actually plays to that propaganda leg of the 3 warfares. So I think fundamentally what this is about, I'm not worried about this. I think it's something you have to watch. But also at the same time, I ask, is this really a distraction for something else? Or is this something that is intended to cause a big splash, take attention away from the U.S. and put it onto the Russian Federation and the People's Republic of China? Now, I know a lot of my colleagues will say, well, this is a good example of how, the Russian Federation and the People's Republic of China are promoting peaceful uses of outer space. I believe that is narrative, and that again goes to the political aspect of the 3 warfares. I believe honestly that the whole peaceful purposes is basically is a cover for for basically establishing international law under their worldview of what the world should be. And the whole idea of cooperation, well, I've talked about cooperation, maybe not too much in these videos, but in other aspects through my briefing letter, the PRC. I've definitely talked about what I think about the idea of cooperation in the PRC. Definitely, it is really more narrative and more a guise to promote the PRC's agenda and the Russian Federation's agenda as opposed to the U.S. agenda. So I think fundamentally what you have to understand is that this is probably not something to worry about. It's something to look at and keep in mind. But it's definitely not a Sputnik moment. It's not something we have to panic and make rash decisions about where we're going. But I think it's more designed to really take advantage of what could be perceived right now, I think, as a U.S. weakness, given uncertainty of where space policy is going to go, or what direction space policy is going to take going into this new administration, into the Biden administration. And I always preface, and one other thing I always preface when I talk about this, the PRC and the relationship between the PRC and the Russian Federation. I mean, there is a lot of hype made about, the unprecedented cooperation between these two states. Understand, bottom line is, while the PRC and the Russian Federation shake hands on all these initiatives, including this one, and smile for the cameras, they are at the same time they're eyeing each other and sizing each other up. Eventually, they are going to turn on each other. It's just going to happen. I mean, when it's going to happen, I don't know, but chances are they're eventually going to turn on each other. So all these platitudes right now work to their benefit because it makes the U.S. look bad, or pulls away the attention away from the U.S. and puts it on them. But at heart, really, I think they're natural adversaries, and at some point they're going to turn on each other. So again, I don't think this is anything to get too excited about. Something to watch, but something not to, this isn't something that we should be making rash decisions based on, like, oh my God, they're going to have a lunar base by 2030. Well, when I start seeing hardware, when I start seeing solid agreements, MOUs really aren't solid agreements. They're just basically understandings. They're not legally binding. Then I'll say, okay, maybe this is something maybe this is moving in that direction. But I don't think it's something we should be basing our policy on, or making knee-jerk policy decisions based on what I consider basically a big show for for propaganda and political and lawfare purposes. So again, that was just a quick rundown of what my thoughts on this. I wanted to get this out. I'm going to talk about this a little bit more in my briefing letter, which is coming out on March 26th. And if you wanted to subscribe, if you're not subscribed to my briefing letter, The Pressy, you can send me an email at info@thepressy.net. I'll be happy to send you a complimentary copy for you to look at. And if you want to become a subscriber, I have some very reasonable rates. And you can go to thepressy.net. That's my webpage for it, which will actually describe The Pressy and list out some of the pricing options as well. So until then, that's all I got for this topic, and I will talk to you next time.